Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
And welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
And I'm Gavin Courtney.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
It's a very beautiful morning again.
Yes,
nice and cool too.
It is. It's nice and crisp early in the morning. Then the sun comes out.
Yeah, for sure. But at least it hasn't been that hot over the past few days.
No.
Which I've been enjoying the weather a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So setting us into the right kind of mood for the end of the year.
Yeah, and yesterday was really breezy. You know, I was outside yesterday evening, so got to experience the full effect of that. And as you said, of course, you know, it is that time of year. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I was it was pretty interesting seeing like all of the November 1st memes today, since it's like once Halloween is over.
Oh, yes, then you're on the Christmas watch.
Yep.
I see. Yeah, the typical one is the Mariah Carey, that's the frosting herself. That's true, except we have November 19th in between.
Yep, absolutely. But I always say why we can just do both at the same time. You know, I'm pretty festive, so
That's right, holiday to holiday.
Once
That's a good way to go.
I mean, it's an excuse to party. So.
All right, but of course, we do have a lot to get into for today, so we're going to get started with our motivation so that you can start your morning right with some positivity. And today's eye-opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Our past can read like a document on what not to do, but we have the present and our future to make a change. When we look back at the past, knowing what we know now, we often find it difficult to understand how we made the mistakes we made. This is because once we learn new information, it is nearly impossible to re-enter the headspace we were in before we learned that information. And so we look back at parents who spanked their kids, for example, and wonder how they could have thought that was a good idea. Similarly, our personal pasts are full of mistakes we can't believe we made. We did things then that we would never do now. And this is precisely because we have information now that we didn't have or weren't able to access then. We serve the greater good most effectively by not dwelling on the past, instead reining our energy and knowledge into our present actions. It is here in this moment that we create our reality and ourselves anew with our current knowledge and information.
I like that eye-opener. It's like the classic saying, hindsight is 20/20.
That's right.
And of course, it's because, you know, and I think we had a similar sort of eye-opener last week, and we were talking about how we grow based on experiences from the past, even the painful ones. And I remember that I said something like, well, the painful, the positive from even something that's even painful that you experienced in the past is that you learn from it. So that if it's a good experience, you know what you want to do, and if it's a bad experience, then you learn what not to do. So with that said, you acquire that knowledge so that you don't make those same mistakes again, and that you can also help people avoid those things, and that so you can navigate what it is and achieve what you want even better, or even streamline that purpose based on all of the knowledge that you've come to from your past experience.
Yeah. It's that saying, if I knew now what I knew then, I'd probably do things a lot differently. But this is perhaps, I think, the greatest selling point as to why we shouldn't, and I'm not saying it's easy, belabor things that we have done in the past. And that's really, I think, the trap that we set for ourselves. You gain new information that brings clarity into just how gravely you messed up something in the past, and you dwell there, and you don't realize exactly what the eye opener said. You didn't have access to that information. You didn't know the consequences, the outcomes, how things would change, or that you didn't need to take those actions in the first place. And very often, I once heard on a podcast acknowledging. I can't use the term that they use, but first times for things. So first experiences. So when you're in something, you're stuck, you don't know how to get through it, acknowledge it's your first time, and that you may get it right, you may get it wrong, and you just know that that is the foundation you're laying for future situations similar to those.
You know what?
They're called FFTs.
I'm smiling as you say that, because it actually reminds me of cooking. And when you try a recipe for the first time, sometimes a lot of the times it doesn't work out, or it doesn't come out how you think it's going to work. And then, if you do stick to it, though, eventually, you become a master or whatever. And think about, especially with baking, I find like that. The first time you try, you can make so many different mistakes, and then you eventually learn and you build, and then suddenly you're like a master cake maker or whatever.
Or you just have that one solid recipe that everybody loves. But trust me, the first one wasn't so great, and all the tweaks, the mistakes that you've made along the way has helped you to perfect it.
I can remember one time, and I have a specific example about this, about learning from a past mistake, is that one time I was making a recipe, and I was really young. And it called for the eggs to be separated, and I didn't know what that meant. And I thought that meant that you added them separately, as in one at a time, rather than separate the eggs from the yolks. So needless to say, that came out like a disaster, but I learned definitely what that means now. So with that said, that's our eye-opener for this morning, and we like to... With that said, our eye-opener is this morning, and it's all about learning from the past. Now, we've got to keep things moving, and as we usually do, we like to give you updates from our latest COVID-19 figures from over the weekend. We had our weekend tally. The results of the weekend tally came out yesterday evening, and this weekend's numbers, or the past weekend's numbers, I should say, were a bit lower.
I'm sorry. We got our weather on the line. Can we just let's hear from Crystal in the first place. Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, Crystal. Gavin and I were talking about how beautiful this morning is. I wish that chill would stay all day long, right?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. So what can we expect for today?
Okay, excuse me. We have a relatively moist north to northeasterly airflow over the area presently. So for today, sunny with some cloudy spells, and then cloudy at times tonight. Isolated showers or periods of light rain can be expected along the coast, and a few more offshore for today. And then a few showers and periods of light rain or isolated thunderstorms, mainly along the coast and over the south and offshore for tonight.
All right, and what about our winds?
The winds will be from the north to northeast at 10 to 15 knots.
And our temperatures, what are we expecting today?
Today will be 84 along the coast, 88 inland, and 70 in the mountains.
And for tonight, the low temperatures?
Tonight will be 74 along the coast, 68 inland, and 63 in the hills.
So it's still nice and relatively cool.
Yes.
And what about our outlook as we head into Wednesday in the middle of the week?
Okay, we do expect a few showers and isolated thunderstorms, mainly along the coast, over the next couple of days.
All right. And are we monitoring anything in the wider region as we reach the tail end of the hurricane season?
Okay, we do have Tropical Storm Wanda out, and at 3 a.m., Wanda was centered near latitude 35.0 north, longitude 40.9 west, or about 800 miles west of the Azores. And Wanda was moving to the east-northeast at 8 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour.
All right. So I suppose we'll keep monitoring that one.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for giving us that weather update.
You're welcome.
All right, we hope you have a great day.
Okay, you guys as well.
All right. So there we have our update.
Yep, so the nice weather should continue, but there might be a little bit of rain by tomorrow. So I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I'm fine with those cool mornings. They really just help you to start your day off right. Step outside, and it's like the perfect type of wake up call that you need. But you got to get up early for it. If you're waking up now, it's starting to warm up already. Yeah. All right, so that's our weather update for this morning. I'm sorry I cut you off. We were talking a bit about COVID there, but yes, still looking at over 300 new cases detected yesterday. Of course, that's the combination of Saturday, Sunday numbers and Monday morning.
Yes, so there were a bit over 350 cases, and that is a little bit lower than our weekend tallies that we've been seeing for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Normally we're seeing numbers over 400.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of an encouraging sign. There were, of course, 4 deaths to report, which is unfortunate. So we do want to offer condolences to the families and friends who are and loved ones of those who are lost their life to COVID-19. But the numbers we are seeing a slight decrease in number. That has been the trend over the past, since, let's say, the beginning of last week. Yeah. And so that is something encouraging.
And 514 new recoveries, and that's great news to report as well, as we're seeing people who are successfully beating COVID and being able to return to normal life. As we can see from that prior picture, the positivity rate yesterday was 10.9%. Kind of gives us some insight as to why we haven't seen the change in curfew, as was explained to us by the Prime Minister right here on the show. They were hoping for a 10% and below positivity rate heading into November, which would have allowed for a pushback of the curfew by 1 hour. So instead of 9 p.m., it would have been 10 p.m. We haven't hit that target as yet, and so for now, we still continue with the 9 p.m. curfew.
Yes, and those figures, of course, again, were for over the weekend. And if we're looking at it, the numbers should reflect some of the strict measures that we were under just about 3 weeks ago. Well, most parts of the country, I should say, where we had a 7 p.m. curfew and restricted no movement Sundays. And so the lower numbers that we're seeing may reflect some of those changes in that the amount of time that people could or the activities, again, that people then were limited, so that the spread should have accordingly been limited. But of course, it's a situation that we're going to have to continue to monitor, and a lot of it does, of course, or most of it, I should say, does depend on us in terms of keeping up with the protocols, keeping our distance, and of course, if you are experiencing COVID symptoms or not feeling well, to listen to your medical advice, find your nearest testing center, and know your results, because of course you don't want to be in a position that you're unknowingly spreading the virus.
That's right. That's right. We do encourage everyone to keep on adhering to all the protocols. Remember that if you're over 60, if you are a healthcare worker, you are eligible for a booster vaccine. You can go to the different vaccination sites and you can be able to take your 3rd shot. Very important. We've seen across the globe how it is something that is being offered to high-risk populations because of the new variants that have popped up and the reduction in the defenses that you have with your existing vaccines. Some people have been fully vaccinated from as early as May, and so they are able to get that 3rd shot to help to protect them. So please do so if you fit the eligible criteria. If not, keep on with all the protocols, wear your mask, watch your distance, and of course, make sure you keep on washing those hands. But from COVID-19, I think globally, this is the first time the conversation has shifted away from the pandemic into one other collective topic, and this time it's about climate change.
Yes, absolutely. And the world and world leaders, I should say, are convened right now in Glasgow, Scotland for the COP26, conference. And of course, the focus of the discussion, as Marlene said, is climate change and what collective action the world is going to take in order to combat some of the effects of climate change.
And what we see there are some video from one of the centers that's being used for the conference. Of course, our News 5's Dwayne Moody is there in Glasgow, Scotland, and he will be filing daily reports for us as to what's taken place the day before. They are just at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, so their day started a long time ago. I am sure that they are battling jet lag at this point. But very important conversation that's taking place there, negotiation that's taking place there, and we hope we will bring you up-to-date information as to how that goes.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we, on our newscast last night, we brought you coverage of the Prime Minister Briceño's address to the conference. And of course, he was one of many speakers that spoke yesterday, and of course, there will be several other presenters. But if you were watching, he made several points about Belize's vulnerability and also the necessity for the more developed countries to take their responsibility and fulfill their commitments in order to reduce global emissions and just hit those targets, I should say, that will reduce the impacts of climate change.
Yeah, so let's take a look at a clip of that presentation.
Belize is a proud custodian of the Belize Barrier Reef System, the second largest reef system in the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But here is the sad reality. Coral bleaching stress doubled from 1.7 in the period 1985 to 2014 to severe level 3 between 2014-2017. The reef is dying and may be beyond the point of full restoration. For Belize, the Belize Barrier Reef is more than a global beauty. It also underpins our culture and our tourism industry, which contributes approximately 40% to our domestic product, our gross domestic product. Without the reefs, Belize's economy could crumble. Our people's lives will be forever changed. Excellencies, the threat to our barrier reef is a direct result of human-induced climate change. That is an undeniable fact. I am pleased to announce that Belize just entered a $360 million debt for marine conservation transaction, the largest blue bond transaction ever, and established a permanent $100 million US Marine Conservation Trust Fund. We will increase our marine protected biodiversity zones by 30% by 2026, 4 years ahead of our target, and we will place all remaining public lands in the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System under protection. Belize is proud of our record on conservation, but all will be lost if the countries of the G20 obfuscate and abdicate their responsibilities to act. With right on our side, we demand climate justice. We demand immediate action, ambitious action to save our planet. Developed countries must not only deliver, but increase their commitments on climate finance. $100 billion US per year can only now serve as the baseline. Funding for adaptation must be dramatically increased. At a minimum, developed countries need to more than double public finance adaptation. We need to move from carbon trading towards carbon emission reduction mechanisms with rules that apply to everyone.
And there you have it. That was Prime Minister Briceño addressing the COP26. And as we were saying, the content of his speech focused mainly on some of the effects that Belize, as a small country who is vulnerable to the effects of climate change, is experiencing, and also the need for those more developed countries to, pull their weight. And Marlene and I were also talking a little bit earlier before we got started that we were watching some of the other presentations, and somebody who's was also pretty interesting was Prime Minister Mia Mottley from Barbados. She also addressed COP26 yesterday. Her speech contained some similar themes, but of course I saw some clips even after I watched circulating on the internet, just because of some of the powerful words that she spoke to.
No, definitely. I think people have learned to expect a certain level of passion coming from her speeches. I wanted to say definitely that when Prime Minister Briceño started off, he really kind of, I think, grabbed the attention of the room when he talked about the reef is dying.
Yep.
And outlining what we are already seeing here in Belize, and I think that was a really critical point. When we had Dr. Colin Young here from the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, that was one of the things that we had discussed, that the importance of countries like Belize and countries like Barbados and countries like Maldives being there is that we are the ones already feeling the impact. So these negotiations are ongoing, and there's all this talk about climate change. But now we talk about climate justice. How fair is it that those who are contributing towards the pollution are not helping those who are feeling the effects of it? And so that was a very central theme in what we heard from Prime Minister Briceño, and what we also heard from Mottley, when Mottley said, listen, we're not going to survive. And she outlined countries, Antigua and Barbuda, we're not going to survive. And so the action needs to be taken now.
No, absolutely. And I think that the point can be made because we have so many examples to look at that even go beyond the reef, talking about unprecedented climate, well, I don't want to say effect. Well, let's call them effects of climate. Let's call them climate events that we've experienced locally just over the past few years. Of course, last year's biggest and probably most dramatic thing that will be in most people's memories are the floods from Eta and Iota. And those displaced thousands of people while they were at their worst point. Several homes, farms, lots of other people's livelihoods were affected. We have shown you both here and on our newscast stories about erosion in particularly southern communities such as Monkey River, Dangriga, that have been experiencing huge effects. A lot of the islands, I know there have been there's been recent news about erosions that has been going on at Silk Key, Bird Key. So we're seeing the effects that happen right in front of us.
And Monkey River is one of those stories that has been documented time and time again. I know at this point they are losing their cemetery.
Yep.
And I was talking to I know in conversations we've been having here in getting ready for COP, it's one of those things where, you lose your beachfront, let's say, then you lose your property and you lose your home and you lose the belongings within it. But when you lose your dead, your loved ones, there's nothing that replaces that. Absolutely not. You could give somebody another lot, another home, but you cannot replace that space of reverence that they have already established to be able to go see people they've lost in the past. And I think that really, for me, drives home the extent of what we have lost in climate change.
And I think with that said also, in Monkey River in particular, because the cemetery is one thing, but also several pieces of property, it's also literally, history is being washed away. And we're losing, there's people who, with those people who are buried, there's memories buried with them as well. and based on what they've done for their families, what they've done for perhaps the community, and we're seeing it happen right in front of your eyes. And like Prime Minister Motley said, how many more pictures and videos are we going to have to see before we actually take action? And both Prime Minister Briceño and Motley and others did make the point, as we also discussed on our show with several of the other representatives who have traveled to Glasgow, is that our country, we're pulling our weight.
Yeah.
Prime Minister Briceño went into detail about the fact that over 60% of Belize is covered by forest, 40% of which is protected. The 15% marine reserve also is another thing. So we're not the countries who are, causing these emissions and causing these devastating sort of climate events. But we're feeling the effects more than the other countries by far. So that is the call to action that we heard from the prime ministers, and it's important now because people are losing their lives and livelihoods right in front of our eyes.
Absolutely. So the World Leaders Summit continues today, November 2nd. They will be wrapping up, I think, in a few hours. And then the technical teams begin meeting, and there are different delegations that are headed to Glasgow to be able to participate in COP26. I was making note of the fact that some of the world leaders who got up, countries that are speaking out. We had the host country, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, saying, it's 1 minute to midnight and we have to act now. And I thought that was also another quotable moment that's been coming out from the speeches from world leaders. We do have some more updates that we'll be sharing with you. Of course, as we said, our reporter Dwayne Moody is there in Glasgow, and he's already gathering some information to be able to give us the latest as to what has taken place over yesterday and this morning. And we'll be having a bit more for you, both online on our social media and, of course, in our newscast tonight at 6 p.m. So that's our COP26 update for this morning.
But of course, we do have a lot to get into, and we've got to get our show started. We've got a lot of interesting conversations for this morning lined up, and our first conversation is going to be getting an update from the Ministry of Tourism, and we're actually going to be joined in studio by the Honorable Anthony Mahler, the Minister of Tourism. So as we head into the tourist season, we get a bit of an update from him.
It's like the Oscars when they're like telling you to get off the stage.
Yeah, well, the thing, I'm used to singing over music, so I notice I just raise my voice.
Except now you're talking. All right, we got the cue. We're going to break. All right, but we do want to let people know what else is happening. Of course, the Investment Summit, the Belize Investment Summit, is coming up, and there has been a whole lot of preparation going into this event. This is an opportunity for investors to travel to the country, to learn about the opportunities we have here and how to navigate themselves through all the expectations on Belize's side. So the Belize Investment Summit will get a preview of that from the CEO in the Ministry of Finance and the Director of Beltrade.
And our final conversation this morning is going to be about the upcoming Disability Conference. And we're going to be joined by Autism Belize to talk, to get the details about that upcoming event. And that's going to be our final conversation for this morning. And then I'm going to wrap things up and tell you a little bit about what's been trending recently on social media with Trending Talks Tuesdays. And that is going to be our show this morning.
All right, so we're going to take that break and we will be back in a few, so stay tuned.
We have been a partner with SMART for over 10 plus years. We have a full SMART plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this SMART service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our smart service, we pay an average of about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to smart because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
Smart continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
The TV you love is always with you, from live TV, sports, and on-demand titles. Choose your plan today. Plans start as low as $15 per month. My TV, entertainment, anytime, anywhere.
Are you looking to invest in a growing free trade economy with ideal geographical positioning and existing economic partnership agreements with countries around the world? Perfectly nestled between Central America and the Caribbean, Belize is open for business with over $500 million in investment opportunities in industries such as agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, and much more. Register today to participate in the Belize Investment Summit 2021 and find the investment opportunity that's right for you.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
We're back.
And if you're joining us right now, we're just getting our first conversation for this morning started. And we are joined by the Honorable Anthony Mahler, the Minister of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, and we're getting an update from the tourism industry as we head into the high season for this year. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, guys, and thanks for having me. Good morning, Belize.
Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate you coming in to the show. And we can just start by just talking about how things are looking as we do head into the high season. As Marlene and I were talking about, we're reaching the tail end of the hurricane season, and this is traditionally the time when we're thinking for the pickup in tourist arrivals.
Well, it always picks up around Thanksgiving weekend, and then it goes into Christmas. There's a lull, and then there's a huge boom from January to, I'd say, May. And then I've seen the season extended to June and July, and there's more demand for Belize. But the overall projections for us for tourism over the next couple of years is a robust one, and we believe that 2022 is going to be a strong year, and then as we move into 2023 we should get back to some true normalcy and surpass what we were receiving in 2019.
Yeah. The first quarter of this year, you were seeing numbers that showed that you were above those projections, the original projections for this year. What is it like for this high season?
So we had, up until June, we had returned to about 75% of where we were pre-COVID, and now it would be the dead of the low season right now, and it's a height of the hurricane season for us as well. So we're seeing about 60 or 65%, which still isn't too bad with all the restrictions we have still in Belize.
This has been a continuous complaint we've heard from the sector itself. The fact that two things, the regulations that we have in place and the status that we have with COVID-19 being in the thick of a third wave. Is that something that you've been able to get more information on?
Well, more information from where?
From stakeholders.
Oh yes, we keep in constant dialogue. And our representative of the BTIA and BHA, our representatives are on the BTB's board, so we are in constant communication. In fact, I have a meeting with both BTIA and BHA tomorrow, different meetings with the boards, and we will have a discussion on the impacts of COVID and the restrictions and going forward into 2022 and beyond.
What's it like for you as minister when you sit in cabinet and these decisions are being made that you know are going to have a negative impact on tourism?
Well, this is a joke, right? I've found out a thing called ashwagandha, right? It reduces your stress level. So I've been relegated to taking a few of those before I go into cabinet. But I've just gotten back late last week from the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association conference in Panama, and so I met several ministers of tourism at that conference, and they're having the same difficulties all across. They trying to balance the health requirements and then trying to balance the opening up of the economy from a tourism standpoint. Now, a lot of other countries are moving away from all these strict restrictions. When I went to Panama, because I'm fully vaccinated, I didn't have to do a test. There's no curfew. There's a mask mandate, social distancing, physical distancing, yes. And I think that's where we need to head back to the basics, where we pound every day, wash your hands, physical distance, social distance, don't congregate in large numbers, and before you know it, this will be behind us. The reality is that this isn't going anywhere. The COVID-19 isn't going anywhere. It has to become endemic. And then, for example, the Spanish flu became the common flu. No matter what, in the United States and all across the world, the common flu kills a lot of people. Now, I don't want to be irresponsible.
Yes.
We have to, things are tough here. If you move from 52% poverty to somewhere around 65%, A lot of people are underemployed. A lot of people are unemployed still. The tourism industry, or the travel and tourism sector, is the only low-hanging fruit. If you put something into the ground and talk about from the farm to the table, it takes a while for that to grow and for you to export it. It's the same thing if you want to get into cattle. It's not to hit any of those industries, but we need a diversification, yes, of the economy. But tourism provides us with the only opportunity for us and real estate to bounce back quickly and to get some of the stresses that we have from an economical standpoint back in order.
I think the Prime Minister himself has said that diversification for him doesn't mean that there's a reduced level of interest or expectation of growth in tourism. It's having other alternatives as well.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're right, balancing the decisions between what is best for public health and what will actually attract people to want to come to Belize are two different things.
So if you want to be real, tell me how does a no movement Sunday work?
Well, they had two, and that was it.
Yeah, but still, when you're dealing with planning and moving forward, no movement Sundays, can I come to Belize and move around freely on a Sunday? I don't know. Maybe they change it again next week.
And so that's been a challenge. I know I've spoken to people in the sector that tourists call and ask. They do their research. They know that there are regulations. And then they can't be able to give them firm answers as to what to expect, let's say in December, if that's when they want to come. They don't know if there'll be a curfew, if they're unvaccinated, if they can go to a restaurant, or what they'll be allowed to do during that time.
So, yes, and in Cabinet we discussed a tier system, and the Ministry of Health is going to implement that based on our lobbying, that we can't continue with the inconsistencies. We can't plan this way. It doesn't lend for any productivity or any forward thinking, and so hopefully soon that tier system will be launched.
And speaking of that forward thinking, we think of have you also or has the ministry also been looking at what sort of the level of investment might be in the tourism industry, if any, given the difficult circumstances?
What level of investment?
Well, I mean, if whether we're also seeing whether there's still people, if there's level of interest in terms of people.
Yes, and that's because I think the government has done a good job in creating an environment where people feel more comfortable. The rule of law, we've said that is we're going to uphold that. We're trying to work on the ease of doing business. And we're talking to a lot. So I heard you talking about the investment summit, which I think is going to be critical. But for us as well, we've been talking to a lot of developers across the world, and we believe strongly with the environment that we're creating as a government that we could attract some major developments for overnight as well as cruise.
As we mentioned the investment summit, we know that a large number of the potential investors who are coming are looking at tourism as potential investments. It really is a crucial time to kind of have a defined plan as to where we want our tourism product to go. How much has that been a part of the discussion at this phase where you're trying to attract investors?
Well, as you probably know, there's a thing called a Sustainable Tourism Master Plan, and there's a cruise policy. Actually, that cruise policy wasn't amended. I think the last time it was when I did it in probably 2006 or 7, something like that. And the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan is there, and then there's a tourism policy that is akin to the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan. We're in the process of updating and modernizing those documents, and so hopefully within the next few months we can put that out to the public for everybody to consume.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned the cruise tourism, I know there was, as you said, you just came back from a conference, but let's talk about the public debate that is ongoing of potentially adding 3 new ports to Belize as a destination.
Well, one, like I said, government is to create an enabling environment, but there's a lot of noise in the market, like they say, and nobody's checking the change, right? Or not enough. And so that's one of the issues that we discuss in Panama, the cruise lines want to know what's going on in Belize. And so I said, within short, we'll have all of it settled.
So
I believe that there, obviously there can't be 3 ports. Belize isn't on an itinerary by itself. Belize has to be on an itinerary with different countries.
Yeah.
And so the numbers won't grow for 3 ports to be successful.
Are there other ports? Are there other destinations that have multiple ports?
Roatan,
Yes.
Jamaica, Cozumel.
Yeah.
I think Barbados may have 2 ports.
So my question is, from a strictly tourism standpoint, what are the needs that need to be met?
For the cruise?
Yeah, for cruise.
One, well, they need a berthing facility where people can disembark. What that does is...
Directly onto mainland.
Yes. What that does is it creates, it gives the cruise lines more time. Belize is a tour destination, and they're profitable, very, very profitable in Belize as a result of the tours. So it gives them more time to do more tours. The tourists, the ones who don't go on tours and stay in the city or wherever the docking facility is, then tends to go on and off several times, and then they spend more like that. And then it gives you an opportunity for cruise lines to home port in your country, meaning that they overnight there and then they source goods and services in your country, which then adds another spin to the entire revenue generating capacity of the industry. So it is safe, especially in these times when an artificial is blowing. It's not rough, and you're not open to or lawsuits. So there are a lot of things that you can raise the head tax because the infrastructure is better. So there's a lot of spin-off for having a docking facility. I just visited one in Panama as well. It's being built. It's going to be open probably in the next 2 or 3 months. Massive investment, but they're focusing on home porting as well.
And you know, when we speak about cruise tourism, a lot of the discussion tends to surround perhaps, let's say, the trade-off in that you do have benefits, but there's also some difficulties. And especially since we were talking earlier about COP26 and climate change, a lot of the issues is the environmental impact of both the cruise ships coming and the port, or the proposed port facilities. So how does...
there are a lot of, sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of feelings and sentiments regarding cruise based on the history, right? Past. If you go to Harvest Key and you look at that facility there, you will see that you can develop in a sustainable way and sustain it over time. It was impressive what they've done out there in terms of managing their waste, managing their wastewater, managing everything, managing the numbers that come off the ship there. The same thing, I spoke to some of the executives of the cruise lines in Panama, and they're expecting to reduce their energy use by 30% in the next few years, and by 80% by 2050. So imagine these huge, and every year they're coming out bigger. So you have the Oasis class ships that can hold probably about 6,500 passengers, probably about 2,500 crew. So it's a small village floating out there and running on 80% less energy in a few years to come.
Now, I want to move, just if you'd allow us, because I know that cruise tourism and the conversations about the port has been very robust. But when you talk about the bread and butter for Belize, it's our overnight stays.
That's right.
That's where we are going to get the majority of our income from tourism. Developing new destinations in the country has been a conversation that's been ongoing for a long time. We know we have our staples. We have our San Pedro, or Kikaka, or Placencia, or Cayo. Hopkins has been up and coming. What's the plan in being able to move beyond just these main destinations?
Well, that's why we're updating the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan. What we want to do is fly in the helicopter that Britney Spears went on, and then look down on Belize, right? and say this area is good for this type of investment. This area is good for agriculture. This area is good for housing. And this area is good for maybe manufacturing companies. And we identify those areas. For example, we had an exciting discussion with a very, very serious gentleman with a new area down south with a massive level of investment in a really, really sustainable way that will include marinas, golf courses, condos, hotels, massive. And this is a serious play in the business all around Central America. And so that would open up a whole new era for Belize if that gets through. And we're going to do everything possible for him to create, like I said, an environment where he can succeed in putting this business venture forward. But stuff like that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And are we also...
and you're right, the overnight sector generates 75% of the revenues for our country. And that's why our main focus was trying to rebuild back the overnight sector with partnering and talking to the airlines. So in the next couple of weeks, we have Alaska Airlines coming in on November 19th. From
big deal.
Huge for us. You show me which next administration has been able to attract 2 new airlines within 6 months. We go to
during a pandemic too.
During a pandemic,
where airlines are cutting back flights.
Yeah. So and if it was not for some of the internal issues, I believe we would be able to attract more airlines to Belize. So Alaska Airlines, internal issues for the airlines. A lot of them ask some pilots to retire, some of their older staff, and you can't just find a pilot. That's why you see some of the airlines having major cancellations. Whether issues, they just don't have the personnel to manage all the flights that they're trying to come back, or trying to bring back. But the overnight sector is important. Alaska Airlines on November 19th from Seattle and from LA, and then on December 10th we'll have Frontier from Orlando and then from Denver, which Denver is a big market for us. And we're looking at, strategically looking at how we can look at the low-hanging fruits in the United States and then expand from there. I have meetings with, in a couple of weeks, with all the major airlines in Mexico, and then we should have meetings with British Airways and Virgin in a couple of weeks too.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question about the focus or on bringing in tourists and also investors, I suppose, from different markets as well from around the world. The Latin American one is one that people have said we haven't really tapped into as much as we could have.
I agree.
Regional travel.
In fact,
even the Caribbean.
The strategies around this whole area. For example, we're right next to Mexico, and we get about 7,200 visitors overnight a year. You know, a lot of people go into the free zone from Jetamal and from the Quintana Roo area, but only 7,000 when you have Mexico has almost 100 million people, and they have a lot of them who have spending power. The other thing is that in Latin America we only get about, I'd say, 8,000 visitors for the year. We believe that if we position ourselves strategically, we would be able to attract more people. In fact, when I was at the tourist board the first time, the marketing experts from Latin America would say, well, people don't know Belize in Latin America. I'm 30 years later, they're saying the same thing. So something is off somewhere, right? Yeah. And so we have to.
had some Brazilian tour guides in country, I think, doing seeing the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's and it was always an idea, I know, when Copa was introduced, to be able to be that link to Latin America. But language will always be a barrier.
Well, why?
No, I'm asking. Is language going to be a barrier?
Why have we not become Latinized over the last 30 years.
Well, it depends.
No, yes, we have, I think people who speak Spanish now make up 55% of the population. So I don't think language is a barrier. We have enough people who are able to speak Spanish here in Belize. And a lot of the travelers who come to Belize can speak English as well.
Yeah.
And then you have Google Translate, right?
And apps that can handle that too.
Yeah.
Let's shift focus for the final 10 minutes that we have. I want to talk about the tour that you did with the Diaspora. It was a team of ministers and other representatives, but of course you have the responsibility of diaspora relations. What's the plan here now that you've had this first engagement?
Well, no, we want to, I'm going to submit a paper to Cabinet on this coming Tuesday, and we want to have a discussion on some of the initiatives that we want to seriously look at, and then have a fruitful discussion on how we move forward. In the diaspora, they talk about having people be able to vote. Now, I feel a little bit differently about that. Some of my colleagues have their own views, so that's one of the things we have. How do we address second generation and third generation Belizeans living abroad? Should they get a passport just by applying? What is the process there? Should we have somebody in the Senate representing the diaspora? I don't know. A lot of discussions. Yeah, so there are a lot of things.
If you had to categorize, what were the top 3 concerns?
I hate to say this, but crime in Belize. They're worried for Belize. One, land issues, immigration issues, banking issues, and because they want to, a lot of them want to now come back home. They've been there 30 and 40 and 50 years.
They're moving into retirement.
Yeah, they're moving into retirement age, and they've done well for themselves, and they want to come back home, especially from the colder climates. They want to, like we said, ease their mind, no? And those are the big things. How do they come and feel invited to invest? And some of them just want to simply come home. How do they get a piece of land? The minister responsible for lands said that he's going to open a diaspora desk in the ministry, and then he will be prepared to do a tour as well, just like he's doing around Belize to sort out all the land issues for these people.
You mentioned that crime is one of their main concerns. Are you also getting a feedback from those who you saw that they want to help to contribute towards solving the problem?
Yes. From an issue, all the social issues, and they want to come back. A lot of them are very skilled people, highly trained professionals, and they can come back and truly help to rebuild or build this economy back.
Now, we also have an ambassador for diaspora relations. This is new for from what we've seen in the past. What do you expect to be her responsibilities, and how will things be different for the Belizean diaspora now?
Well, her role is to drive the process forward for the entire diaspora unit, and also to continue to create those engagements and connections with people all across the world. Remember, there are not only people who
are in the U.S.
Or no, not only in the U.S., but they don't have relatives. Then they don't have a connection to Belize by birth.
Yeah.
So people who have Belizean passport, who are all across this country. Actually, she told me she found some Belizean some individual who has a Belizean passport who is worth about $26 billion US. So we can reach out to those individuals to say, are you thinking about investing in our country? We might need this area, that area. So her role is to drive the whole process forward, and to show that this is just not lip service, but we want to deliver on what we say we're going to deliver. We want to build on what we started a month or so ago in the United States when we did that tour, and we wanted to go from there. So in January, we will continue with, I believe we'll be in Tampa, and then we'll be in Los Angeles, which has the biggest population of Belizeans living out there. Some say it's almost 150,000 to 200,000 Belizeans living in California.
Just in California?
In the state.
Well, I was going to ask that question next. We've always made different guesses as to the size of the diaspora, just in the United States, because there are in other parts of the world as well. We know because they keep on tuning in. But we don't have that type of measure. Are we going to quantify the size of the diaspora?
We're going to try. So we're working on an online registry, and we're asking people to sign up if they're interested. It will come with certain benefits that we're trying to work on with the tourism industry, whereby they get a card and they have some discounts when they come to Belize, that type of thing. And also we want to, every 3,000 or so person who registers would go into a raffle to win a land here in Belize, that type of thing. Try to have it as attractive as possible. But there are still a lot of people who live all around the world who are not, have not been regularized in the system that they live in, and so I don't expect them to register, right? So there's still going to be a shortfall.
Yes.
And going back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, in the context, we spoke about it in the context of Latin America. You know, people saying that they don't know where, they don't know Belize in general, they don't know where it is. Going back to tourism, what's sort of the plan talking about marketing, you know, in those newer spaces that, or those new markets that we haven't traditionally reached out to?
Well, we believe that digital gives us an opportunity to do great things. We just have to be creative with it. I come out of that world a little bit coming from telecoms, and so I understand and appreciate the use of technology. I think that is it provides for a level playing field, or as much as possible. The bigger countries with their bigger budgets. For example, Costa Rica has about $50 million alone for marketing. We don't have anything close to that for our entire budget. But we can do creative things, like I've asked for them. Why don't we partner with Red Bull and have someone free dive the blue hole, right? Just that type of thing. That's the type of thing that attracts people. We have certain plans within the BTB that we're looking at right now. I find them truly exciting, and that will create a buzz in the international arena. But we have to create specific campaigns. So I've asked them to like reverse engineer the whole process. You have direct flights from certain cities in the United States and certain parts of the world. And then what are the connecting cities or countries that these people are, where the main ones are coming. And then we look at the numbers seriously. It has to be data driven. And then we go after them specifically with specific campaigns in those areas.
And speaking of buzz, we did have quite a popular pop star in country last week who did not leave us a rave review. I want to hear your perspective as Minister of Tourism.
Well, like a gentleman, Mr. James Prince posted, I don't get too caught up in that. Maybe, I mean, she's saying Belize, so that can work. The elevator doesn't go all the way up to the top, right? So that's all I'll say about that.
And, you know, this is a key, I think, a key part in what we are seeing with celebrities who may be able to come. Many have attributed Honorable Shine Barrow's travels around the United States as a potential opening for more exposure for Belize. Have you collaborated with him to talk about how to market?
We've sat down and we've spoken in length. No, in this day and age, the social media influencers play a crucial role, yes. But in terms of sustainability for us, we have to keep with our plan. We have a plan on the table, and as long as we hold true to it, we believe that we're going to be successful with the things that we're doing. I don't think if you look on the planes coming to Belize, you will see celebrities, right?
Well, my question is, who has the spending power? I mean, what's the target population? We've had a lot of families and older couples be a big part of our demographic.
Yeah, it depends on the time of year as well.
Yeah.
And so in the high season, you would have people anywhere between the ages of 30 and 55 for the most part coming. And then during the slower season, you would have your educational and your religious groups. And so just depending on the time of year, there are different demographics coming here. But we're not the Cancun type destination. And so we offer a unique, immersive kind of experience here in the country. We have the largest living barrier reef in the world that the Prime Minister is talking about in Glasgow. We have 3 of the 4 atolls in the Caribbean. We have the most extensive cave system in Central America, this part. We have a diverse people. And show me another destination that has the level of diversity for the size of this country. And so we have great wonders. We have the history of the Mayans, the Garifuna, and so we believe that we're an hour and a half from Miami, maybe 2 hours from Houston. So we're strategically located, and we offer what people want. No, they want a life-fulfilling experience when they travel. They want to learn something. They want to experience something that they can remember for years to come. And so we believe that our beautiful 8,867 square miles offers that.
And we still have to get through the pandemic time. So my final question is just, are you going to push? We heard from the Belize Hotel Association. They're very concerned about only vaccinated persons being allowed to go to restaurants. They've also spoken about the impact of curfews. I know that you can't, we don't have zones. We don't have hotel zones that you could say just the hotels. What's your plan in being able to kind of get to the right balance for this?
Well, like I said, first of all, we have to get control of this wave. I think, to be honest, that and I'm no expert, so I have to be careful how I say these things. But I think before it's all behind us, we're going to have a couple more waves. And so we have to be prepared as a country for that. And I'll be critical of our collective decision. How do you say, ma'am, sir, you're welcome to come to Belize. You don't have to be vaccinated. You can go to church now, but you can't eat in a restaurant. You have to grab your food at a window and take it to your hotel room. Now, that's bordering on asinine, I think, and I'll be critical of that. It makes absolute no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to the industry. There's a huge difference between being open up until, say, for example, 11 o'clock at night, and having to shut down your business by 7:30, 8, so that your staff can clean up and get home. We have been at this thing for almost a year and 9 months, 10 months now. We've learned a lot during that time, and I think if other destinations can do it safely, we can. In fact, I just saw a report that Florida is now one of the safest big states in the United States, and everybody was criticizing them for being reckless and all of that. No, we don't have the infrastructure, the health infrastructure, and we don't have all the doctors. And I'm glad to hear that my good friend Cecilia Eck is doing a lot better. So we don't have a lot of doctors in this country, a lot of nurses that we can afford to put pressure on them anymore. I know they've worked tirelessly over the last 18 months or so, and we commend them for that and we applaud them for that. But you have, like I've said in cabinet, at least we have a vaccination for COVID. We don't have a vaccination for starvation and the level of poverty we're seeing in this country. And actually, I was in a meeting with several ministers yesterday to talk about crime and social issues as a result, and crime being as a result of some of those social issues. And one of the field workers was saying that he hasn't seen that level of hunger for all his years of work, and I know it. I see it every single day as a representative for a poor constituency for the most part. So we have to truly implement the safety measures that will work, yes, but we have to understand that this thing isn't going anywhere, and we have to continue to learn to live with it. If all the countries around us are opening up going into 2022, then why can't we do the same in a safe way?
Well, I think I think that's probably, well, we're just about out of time, and I think that that's a good, if not somewhat positive and somewhat sobering note to end on.
No, I try to keep it real all the time.
Yes. You know that.
And I don't mince words, but the tourism industry, and if you want to throw in diaspora, the tourism industry is probably closer to 1.5 billion Belize dollars in terms of economic productivity, and diaspora is trending towards $300 million in terms of remittances. And so the Ministry of Tourism and Diaspora Relations, we take our responsibility very, very seriously. We have very serious people at the helm, and they're working tirelessly to try to rebuild back, and the industry help to rebuild back the economy, so that people can get back to work, people can get back to making a decent living, and the inconsistencies of how we address the COVID situation and cannot continue. And I'm speaking on behalf of the thousands and thousands of people. When they say go out and get vaccinated, the tourism industry was the first to reach 100%,
Yes,
or closest to the 100%. So we understand the ramifications of COVID, and we understand what we need to do, and we're taking responsibility. So now give us an opportunity to thrive, give us an opportunity to tap into what we believe is the pent-up demand, the revenge travel, whatever you want to call it. We really need to give us an opportunity to survive at this time. There are a lot of businesses on the brink at this time.
Okay.
Well, Minister, thanks for joining us this morning. That was definitely a good conversation. Talked about a range of things. We definitely appreciate it and wish you the best.
And thanks for having me, and I look forward to working with you guys continuously. This year is going to be what, 30 years or something?
We are approaching our 30th anniversary. That's right. So
I'll do a plug for you. I was asked.
All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break now. When we come back, shift focus to Belize's Investment Summit. Please stay tuned.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Lately, many things have changed. We changed, of course, but we're still the same. During this pandemic, information is our main partner. The most widely known antimicrobials are called antibiotics, but they are useless to fight diseases such as COVID-19 because it is caused by a virus, whereas antibiotics cure diseases of bacterial origin. Therefore, if you feel sick, do not self-medicate. Consult a health professional qualified to write a prescription and take antibiotics only when prescribed.
Bundle the fastest, most reliable, unlimited broadband in Belize with your prepaid or postpaid mobile plan or Netflix. You can bundle your broadband with your prepaid and enjoy 50% off all national calls, plus get SMS and data. Paid plans? Then bundle with any speed and pay only $25 extra monthly to enjoy unlimited smart-to-smart calls, plus 500 minutes plus 6300 megabytes of data. Stream unlimited HD movies and TV shows with our broadband plus the Netflix add-on for only $30 monthly and enjoy streaming on your laptop, TV, phone, or tablet. Visit a smart showroom near you to sign up or upgrade to the bundle that's right for you. Smart, bringing people together.
Hey son, how was your first day at sixth form?
Really cool. It was great to see my friends, and I really love my teachers.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first day, but I'll be back from Corozal next week.
It's okay, Dad. I can't wait to see you. Oh, and please remember, I still have some books I need to purchase.
Ah, yes. Let me e-cash you that right now. Money has been sent. I add a little extra cash just for you.
Whoa, Dad. Thanks. Got it.
You're welcome, sir.
Download the eCash app today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257. eCash, the future is here.
We're back, and if you're joining us now, we're getting our second conversation for this morning started, and we are talking all about the first ever Belize Investment Summit. And joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Leroy Almendares, who is the Director of Beltrade. Good morning.
Good morning, Gavin. Good morning,
Good
Marlene.
morning.
Good morning, Belize.
And thank you for joining us. This is a pretty exciting topic. Now, for some of our viewers who may not be familiar, let's start by talking talking about what the Investment Summit is.
Thank you very much, Gavin. And following up on the minister, since tourism is a big part of, the summit. The summit really is bringing individuals together, foreign direct investment or foreign investors, those who are interested in investing. And it's not only foreigners, it's also local investors, those who want to invest locally. And so we're looking at different areas, and it will be a hybrid because you will have only the speakers. Those who want to invest, for example, will be in San Pedro. Others can, actually log on virtually. And so that interaction, we hope the end result of it is that out of all of this, we will have enough investment interest. As we focus on economic recovery, we're looking at investment as that foundation. And so we hope that the kind of interest that will be generated, based on our team is open for business, Belize open for business. Mm-hmm. And apart from that, we're making all the necessary, because we hear about doing business, and Belize is 135 out of 190. And there are certain variables, for example, that we have to look at. So those things are being addressed, right? Those things are being addressed. How long it takes for an application, an investor who is interested, how long it takes for it to leave Beltrade being in the interface. As a matter of fact, being investment and export promotion, until it gets back to that investor, and the investor is ready to do imports and those kind of things. So that's being addressed. We're also looking at policy changes, like an investment policy and strategy, to see how you can make all of these things much easier. It had broad-based consultation, so all of these things will be addressed, and so you'll have interaction. It will include the ministers, for example. Well, it starts with the Prime Minister, because it's his idea, really. Yeah. 6 months ago, he said he wanted the first investment summit, and he said we have to get it done. And so a secretariat was put together, and next week is the reality, the 10th and the 11th.
The idea is to get people who showed some level of interest to come and hear directly from representatives here in Belize what it will take, what opportunities exist, and kind of how to get the ball rolling. What's the level of interest that we've seen so far, and from where?
The level of interest is great. As a matter of fact, we were marketing in the United States, Central America, Mexico, Canada. Actually, we're doing intense marketing. As a matter of fact, we're even marketing in the Economist. So if you go into the Economist, in fact, if you Google these days, you will see the investment summit. Something about it pops up when you Google. So the interest has been great, right? The interest has been great, and the areas are diverse, because in terms of the recovery, again, the diversification in terms of interest, investment interest, that's a big thing for us. So the interest is great. You have local investors who either want to expand. You might have joint ventures. Right? We're not looking so much into mergers or acquisitions, but those things are possibilities as well. But there is great interest. And so on the 10th and the 11th, we expect that all those investors coming in, because the interest, when you register on the website, we already know what your interests are, and so it's easier to match. So we're looking at tourism, some light manufacturing. Energy is a big thing, but renewable energy. You have the new Ministry of Blue Economy. Blue economy is big. Tourism, as I mentioned before. Those are some of the areas that we're really looking at. Yeah. And like I said, the interest is there's serious interest even up to now, even though we don't have any more space for those who want to physically come. There are still those who are interested in coming.
So there are registered participants who will be here physically, and then there are others who will join in online.
Through Zoom, yeah. And that's the only option that's available right now. Right? If you want to participate, you can participate and by Zoom, and you will be able to, but just not be physically on San Pedro, because we're ensuring that we take care of all the health protocols. We must comply to the health protocols, so we're doing that as well.
And looking at the registrations that you've seen so far, do you find that these are persons who've already had some level of exposure to Belize, or they're brand new interests?
Some are brand new, and most of them are aware of Belize. As a matter of fact, when you Google Belize these days, it says the last place with respect to paradise, and where cost is, as much as we hear about cost is still minimal relative to other countries. So most of them have heard about Belize before.
Yeah.
And based on the level of, let's say, feedback from the participants, are there particular, well, before we reach there, actually, I suppose I should ask, in reaching out to get participants, what's the level of interest to participate, and what were the, let's say, the needs or the concerns from people who want to attract the investment?
Well, really the problem is not a problem as such, but the concerns even from those who wanted to invest before the summit. Some of the concerns were, it takes so long to get a response and some of those things. So those are some of the concerns. And for example, we say we are open for business, and I've heard people say, but we're always open for business. No, what it means is we have made ourselves more competitive. The foreign direct investment dollar, competition for that is great, especially in a time of a pandemic where it has declined. And so therefore, to make ourselves more attractive, the fact that we're naturally endowed, those things make us even more attractive.
Yeah.
You see?
So let's talk about where you go. I mean, being able to attract people who have an interest in investing to actually turning it into an investment itself, that's going to take the work. Is that what the motive here is, that you don't just get kind of a passing interest from someone, you're able to lock them in?
That's exactly what we want, because even though it's mentioned as a showcase, you want this to be more than a showcase. I mean, really, window shopping does not give you any revenue. And so therefore, for example, we have had interest, like in the case of Cementos Rocafuerte, that's in cement, that was open. And there is interest from Cayman, for example, where you say, okay, they want to expand, how much do you want? What we have indicated as well, as was mentioned by the Prime Minister on September 21st, we have over 500 million in terms of areas at this point in time, that if those things materialize, but then if you have other interests or those who want to join forces with you, that increases the level of investment as well. So we don't want it just to be a passing fancy. We want people to actually be engaged, to be involved. You will hear about all the changes that are being made. And so the discussions will be not, the Prime Minister, you will have those 6 strategic ministers who will be speaking. blue economy, energy, new growth industries, e-governance, because digitization is going to make us, even in terms of access. One of that doing business report, one of the areas that we score 173 out of 90 is starting a business. And so therefore that's being addressed, where the corporate service, the registry is being digitized, make it easier accessible. But it's not only the registry. You have to register for taxes, GST, Social Security, all of those things you need to do. And so therefore, how long does it take compared to other countries? Those things are being addressed. Looking at minority interests in investments. I mean, many times you find out that if you own 90% and I own 1%, you might, how am I protected when you want to do what you want with the assets? Those things, that's another area that we really did poorly in. But those things, like I said, are being addressed. Now, some of the areas that in terms of how we're doing very well is access to electricity, for example, dealing with liquidation, those things, but still the doing business report by the World Bank has been discontinued. But it does not mean that we don't have to address those areas that at this point in time are not making us as competitive as we need to be.
And are we, in terms of the size of investments, are we also looking at a big range in terms of like large to small investors as well?
We're looking, micro, small, and medium enterprises, it's more small and medium, right? But we're also focusing on startups. Every millionaire started with a concept, we trust, unless you inherited it. And so therefore, even at the summit, you will have pitching by startups. Come with a dynamic idea, have some video, maybe about a minute long, and you'll be able to pitch. And if that materializes where someone gains interest and have the finances to help to finance that, it can take off. You see? And the intention we're looking at too is to have some kind of competition at during the summit or after, where one of these startups can benefit from some funding because of their ideas, and the ideas were selected.
So that's going to be integrated into the summit? Because Beltrade works with a lot of small and micro businesses to kind of get themselves established. Will they have their own version of Shark Tank at the investment summit?
I was going to use Shark Tank, but since you use it, it's a Shark Tank kind of idea that we have been throwing around, but like I said, the startups, and you will see it right there on the BIS, the website, or on the Facebook page, startups, come with your ideas, and like I said, we didn't use it yesterday, but I was thinking last night, I said, it's like Shark Tank. So it's possibility to have that, and Shark Tank works. I will invest if I can see the feasibility and the sustainability of what you're talking about. You see?
And now, how do businesses participate?
Well, you can actually, you could register.
On the website?
You can register on the website. I think for startups, we have 6 startups. I know we have over close to 30 businesses that have been registered. And that's foreign because, like I said, from Mexico alone, you will have 10 interested investors. We do a lot of business with Mexico. And so when it comes to this, especially Quintana Roo, and so many times when you hear about this, really, they look at it, and simultaneously, we're looking at materializing a PSA, partial scope agreement with Belize and Mexico. So that's just another avenue.
It's also great, I think, for businesses that are looking to move towards value-added products, especially if they're looking at places that are close in proximity. What are some of the other opportunities, other than having an investor buy into wanting to invest in Belize? What are some of the other spin-offs that you imagine will benefit from?
Well, there are some, for example, we have another big thing, and I must include this, is women economic empowerment. That's a big part of the summit as well, and that's sponsored by the Taiwan Embassy. And so what we expect here you will have a greater integration of a woman into the summit as well. And it's not just tokenism. As a matter of fact, that paradigm shifted a long time ago. And so therefore, with that, you will hear about, for energy. That's a big thing. There's so many areas now. For example, you recently heard about the Cahoon industry, or what will become a new industry. That has a lot of value added. Tourism has a lot of value added. Blue economy. Blue economy, when you think about that, people might say, but what are we talking about? We're not talking about only the surface of the sea. We're talking about under the sea and what exists, because there's an ecosystem under there as well. Mining and all of those things that can be invested in. But once people hear more about it, and again, don't forget tourism, the value added within tourism. And I'm sure if you hear about the minister and how much he's doing and bringing back tourism, we're looking at some manufacturing. We tend to look at light manufacturing, but we're also looking at manufacturing. So there are so many areas. All that needs to happen, even with the startup, bring your concept. We discuss it and help you to look at the feasibility and the next steps, your business plan and those things, assessment of it. What are the material requirements, that you may need in order to get your investment off the ground?
Now, very often we talk about investors in kind of general sense. I think Gavin was asking if they're looking for large investments or not. But then there are also investors like we've seen in the past that want to build an airstrip on the reef. What type of due diligence is being done to screen those who understand that we do have our parameters as to what will be allowed?
I'm glad you asked, because we will not sacrifice the country for one investment. Mm-hmm. Sorry, we will not sacrifice the reef for an investment. As a matter of fact, all of these things are assessed. Due diligence, if you say you want to invest, due diligence is done on you as well. Because again, if that is not done, then we might create a situation where it starts to affect us with anti-money laundering and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so the environmental compliance issues, the ECPs and the EIAs and ESIAs, those different things that have to be done in order for someone to get the green light, all of those things will be done. Yeah. So if you're going to talk about building an airstrip on the reef, and it's going to destroy the reef, I listened to the Prime Minister yesterday at COP26, and he was speaking about how our reef, really second largest, but yet it's being destroyed. We cannot compromise that. Mm-hmm. That is one of those things, along with the Blue Hole and others, that drive tourists to Belize. Those are the things that make us attractive, and so therefore, now looking at investment and so many different areas, the compliance, the procedures, all of those things have to be followed.
And so this has been more or less a year in the making, almost. Can you talk also just a little bit about the logistics and the planning that has gone into all of this, and just all it's taken just to pull it off?
Well, it's like I said, about 6 months, and the secretariat was put together. We call ourselves a group, and then it morphed into a secretariat led by our CEO, who is asked me to give her she could not make it, Miss Narda Garcia. And so therefore we started to plan and looking at what is it, first of all, what are the objectives, because you have to look at your goals. What are the goals? We want to increase investment. We want to increase employment, all of those things, expansion. We want export-led growth. That comes through investment. So looking at those things, and then we started to plan, where would it be? Where will we target these potential investors? And for the local investors to understand that here is an opportunity for you as well, because any incentives granted to foreign investors, those are also granted to local investors. And so even though, and then again, small and medium, we're not saying you have to be $1 million investor. You can be a medium, because most of our exports are from medium and small enterprises. So we went into all of that. Notice we have a guest speaker, the Right Honorable Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister of Canada. And so people may ask, how did we make that determination? If you look at his history as an economist and what he tried to do for Canada in order to bring them back through the challenges, even with when we had the global financial crisis. And he understands investment. Plus, Belize has a very good relationship with Canada. Part of the Commonwealth and everything else, we do have mutual and bilateral relationship where we benefit from. So all of those things we have to look at. Then we look at our priority areas. The other thing you have to take a look at is, what are those areas of interest? Where does investment stand within Plan Belize, for example? Because that has to be incorporated. You have to incorporate those things. And you hear speak about traditional and non-traditional. Who would have thought that seaweed, something we used to drink, has all its value add, is now being farmed. And because it's not only that it's being farmed, but we have some of the best species. It's just a matter now of being able to have the quantity that if we were to export, but consistently, think about how it fills some of those revenue gaps that we need as we focus on recovery. So all of those things are included.
Even things like cannabis. I know that's with,
cannabis.
With the conversation ongoing, there is interest from investors about being able to explore what can happen here.
And remember the derivative, if you will, hemp, right? And the difference between them is the level of THC in hemp and marijuana. 0.3 is when it goes beyond 0.3 in the US, that's considered marijuana, but in Canada it's up to 1%. But it's best to conform to the 0.3, and that's an area of interest as well, because the value added that can come from hemp, the benefits, the oil, and other things you can do from it, for it, or with it. In terms of cannabis, yes, you hear a lot about it, and there are laws, and I know the minister is still consulting where that is concerned, but those are other areas as well. But we must look, because the pandemic and the shock that it had on tourism, for example, which contributed about 44% to GDP, think about how we need to make that up. Even though they're rebounding, but it tells us that there are needs for us to focus even more on what exists within our environment as inputs to generate greater outputs.
Dr. Almendarez, why would you say to Belizeans that they should pay keen attention to the Belize Investment Summit as it takes place next week?
My reason for that would be, first, one, it's the first of its kind. Two, listen to the opportunities that you will hear about. There will be so many opportunities. Thirdly, I would say, don't be afraid to take some risk, because that's a part of the problem. You will hear about all of this, but somebody will say, I don't have access to finance, which is a big issue. One of the discussions will be on financing with the Central Bank and Atlantic Bank and some of the others, where you will hear about some of the changes being made by the Central Bank. And so what I would encourage here is for the commercial banks to take another look and create what is called a carve-out and to accommodate, because this is one of the things that stifles the MSME sector. Access to finance, but not only access to finance means interest rates.
Yes.
And so when you look at the spread, how much does it take for me to borrow $1 and how much do you give me when I deposit $1?
And how
that
long will
spread
it take
can
me?
be reduced, and to pay back. And so therefore, in many cases, we want to see a transition from the informal to the formal sector. But they are afraid to do so because now I need to pay rent and all of those things. It drives up my costs. But if you can create an opportunity for me where I can access finance, affordable financing, and then you can see how I can grow within this ecosystem and become a part of all of this. So Belizeans, and like I said, right now some of the reforms around the MSME sector, which is really, if they were to go, it's like 99% of your whole economy is going there. And so there is a need to focus, but like I said, access to finance, take a little bit more risk. Be innovative, be creative. Nothing is wrong with creating your own path rather than joining everybody. Yeah. Find your own path, and once you can find your own path, many times you will see how that materializes, and that's how an industry is created.
And well, we are actually just about out of time, and I think that's a pretty good note to end our conversation on. Very positive. So Dr. Almendarez, thank you for coming in and joining us, telling us all about the Investment Summit.
All right.
No, you're welcome, and thanks for the invitation.
Okay.
But with that, we are going to be taking another short break, and when we come back, we are going to be hearing all about an upcoming disability conference, and that's going to be right after the break, so please stay tuned.
How can we support the emotional well-being of older adults during COVID-19? During the COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly while in quarantine, individuals, including older adults, may become more anxious, angry, stressed, agitated, or withdrawn. especially those who need healthcare assistance or have cognitive decline or dementia. Here are 4 strategies that can help you in supporting an older adult during this difficult time. 1. Communicate information and listen. Present with accurate, simple, and accessible information and facts about the COVID-19 outbreak, its progression, treatment, and effective strategies to prevent infection. Listen patiently to their needs and concerns. For older people with mild cognitive impairment or early stages of dementia, inform them of what is happening within their capacity and provide support to ease their anxiety and stress. 2. Promote positive mental and emotional health. Provide access to available mental health and psychosocial support services, also known as MHPSS services, for older adults and communicate when and how they can access them. Help older people keep regular routines and schedules as much as possible. You can also help them create new ones, including regular exercising, cleaning, daily chores, singing, painting, or other activities. Facilitate regular communication between older adults and their friends and families. 3. Help with medical needs. Make sure that older adults have at least up to 1 month of all the regular medicines that they may require. Explain how to use protective devices in a clear, concise way. Always be respectful and patient. 4. Assist with daily activities. Provide older people with details related to how and where they can get practical help if needed, like calling a taxi, dropping off supplies, having groceries delivered, and requesting medical care, as well as information on any locally available social support programs and services. For more information, consult the webpage of the Pan American Health Organization, www.paho.org/coronavirus.
My name is Dr. Gabriela Guerra. I am the wife of Dr. Kevin Rafael Guerra and sister-in-law of Dr. Kenneth Raul Guerra. Both of them passed due to COVID complications on December of 2020. My husband was the first one lose this battle on December 12th, and 18 hours later, my brother-in-law Kenneth passed away also. My husband and my brother-in-law, they was a troublemakers, double trouble. They had a lot of friends there and make a jokes and everything every time. They never take us seriously, nothing. They was very generous people, very compromised with their career. We share a lot of good times and memories that actually fill my heart, no? And I live from my memories and the time we share together. The worst thing about lose a loved one, no, due to the COVID, is your loved one be alone, admitted at a hospital, without you, without your cares. You can say bye, you can give the last kiss, you can give the last hug. And that's very painful. I think that's the worst thing. I miss the guy shared with me 12 years of my life, the best ones. I miss my son's father, the guy who played with my son every time and tried to teach football techniques to my son. For the ones maybe out there say the COVID not real, okay? Or pain. And the pain for everyone who lose a loved one. It's real, okay? The struggle is real. If my husband or my brother-in-law, they maybe at that time could have the opportunity to get the vaccine, they will not have a problem to say, I will get it, okay? I will get my vaccine. So if you have this opportunity, take it. I hope my testimony help to change something in your mind. I'll probably take the best decision the next time when the doctor asks to you if you want to take your vaccine. If you don't want to do it for yourself, try to do it for your family, okay? To be safe, for your country.
Cumpleaños feliz, te deseamos a ti.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
And we're back, and we're moving into our third conversation for this morning. As we told you, there are a number of activities coming up that will commemorate Disability Awareness Week, and one of those activities includes a conference that will help parents, educators, and just the general public understand so much more about this group. And we have with us Christy Almeida, who is the founder of Autism Belize, also helping to plan this year's disability conference.
Yeah, we've got about 10 stakeholders helping with the planning. It's being led by the Disability Desk of the Ministry of Human Development, Families and Indigenous People, under total participation, everything with the Office of the Special Envoy. But what they've done is very strategic and smart. They've gotten all of us together that are involved in health and stuff. So we've got Cancer Society, the BCVI, BAPTA, Autism Belize, HelpAge, the National Council for Aging, the Chamber of Commerce, so on. I know I'm forgetting some people, but it's a big group of organizations. And the plan for the conference really is that we want to start talking about a policy for persons with disabilities. And we're hoping we can have a meaningful discussion during this conference and start even drafting the framework of a policy for all disabilities.
And let's not miss the key thing that you said there. We're not talking about children with disabilities. We're talking about people with disabilities.
People with disabilities,
Adults.
all throughout.
Yeah.
We're using the same community-based rehabilitation matrix. So we're looking at health, education, social protection, livelihood, and empowerment. So speakers will talk on all of these things because we're hoping that the policy will incorporate all of this. So all levels, and it's not just about building a ramp or a bathroom. Yes, we do need those things. It's not just about inclusive education. It's about making sure we're building towards a truly inclusive society across all boards.
Yeah. Now, the formatting for the conference, it's going to be online.
Yes, we're doing it virtual. There'll be about 150 participants, those with disabilities, and then those in the different ministries, from transportation to people from the Chamber of Commerce and everything else. So we'll have some invitees, but we will be streaming it live, and we're really hoping that even schools will take the opportunity to watch and participate in this. We don't have anything like this, and we've got to start with a policy for legislation to help with this. So we want society, our entire community, from PG to Orange Walk and Corozal, everyone to tune in and pay attention. Let's have a meaningful discussion about how we can promote and do true inclusion for our society. So it will be streamed live. The majority of the conference will be. And we have a keynote speaker, which is Senator Floyd Morris out of Jamaica. He was actually on the committee that helped draft the UN Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So he's our keynote speaker, and he's been an advisor as we've been planning all of this. We have a lot of local key partners too that will be speaking on the different topics. So it's a good blend of international and local. And so I really think it'd be a good day for everybody to just sort of tune in and listen and
it's really interesting when you said you have the Chamber of Commerce as one of your partners, because I know we've spoken briefly about it before, but employment is an issue. You know, people, I don't know what it's like, but I can't imagine if you have a physical disability or any type of disability having to go and apply for work so that you can survive.
Right.
What's the situation there?
And that's the thing. We have a couple companies who've hired and everything else, but I always say, Inclusion isn't something you have, it's something you do. So we might have a company that will say they'll hire one person with it, and then you think, oh, this is it. And that's part of what the conference is about. We want to explain that it's got to be more than that. And you have to understand their benefits for it. Google will hire someone on the autism spectrum before they hire anyone neurotypical. They are the largest employer of persons on the spectrum because they realize they don't show up late. People on the spectrum call in less sick than other people. There are benefits to this. And it would be the same thing with other disabilities. There are benefits to having someone there. Not just about, being inclusive and being nice, but they can do the work. Yes, that might mean you have to have a handicapped bathroom, or you might have to do something else, but they can.
Or educate yourself about what may be different in terms of social, what do you call it? The interaction.
And this is it. It's you just don't. When you think about like affirmative action, it wasn't just about hiring that one person and then leaving them to figure it out, right? We learned through history and experience that we have to do more to make sure everything blends and it works properly. So that's what's going to have to happen with the business society, right? It's not just going to be about hiring. It's going to be about us going into that business and doing some sensitization. It's about looking and saying, what are this person's strengths? What are the weaknesses? And how can we make this happen so that they are an asset to the company and to the other employees and everything else as well? Because they can be.
And I guess there's so much we can learn from the experience of inclusion with children to use that as a sample for inclusion in the wider community. I know you've worked very hard with that with Autism Belize because it's, yes, you want your child involved in quote unquote a normal school, but it means everyone has to understand.
It's a lot more.
Yeah.
There's a video on YouTube where they have like all these white dots in a circle. And then you've got the colorful dots outside. And that's how it was first, right? All the people with disabilities were on the outside. And then we started putting them in the school and stuff. And then you had this bunch of dots that were right there inside. But it wasn't like you look at it and go, wait, this isn't true inclusion. And that's what it is, right? Yes, you can accept a child with Down syndrome in your classroom. But if they're just sitting in the back in the corner and not meaningfully participate, then that isn't inclusion. And then what we want is that circle where all the dots are all mixed up, the white ones and the colorful ones everywhere. That's how we want it to look. And that's how we want our classroom to look. That's how we want our offices to look. That's how we want society to look. And everyone, if you have that access to these things, health, education, your livelihood, your empowerment, then this is how we can build a really strong Belize. Because we all have something to contribute.
And speaking about the business community, it also occurs to me that a big part of, or a huge issue, the people who may be living with disabilities or people who have family members is also meeting the costs of some of the, perhaps in some cases medication, in some cases equipment for physical support or something. That's also a huge area that perhaps doesn't get talked about as well, even just access to wheelchairs and things like that. So is that also an area that's going to be discussed, just sort of access to those types of support?
Access to it. I mean, I was invited to participate in this thing on agriculture because they're looking at this thing and they go, we want your input. And my first thought was, well, I know about one or two farmers who have a disability, but how many? I mean, lands department is on the second floor of a building. How can they be able to even access the department? So we're talking about very basic stuff too. But then we have to think about there's a lot of technology that can assist farmers with disabilities. There's all of these augmented devices that can help with it. So we do have to look at all of this because right now, like even with my son, I can send him to school, but the only way the school will accept him is if he has a shadow. And that means I have to pay. So I have to pay tuition, and then I've got to pay for his paraprofessional. And these are coming at cost for parents. They say a child with a disability can cost up to about 6 times as much as a normal child. So these parents are struggling, and sometimes they go, why don't you do this, or why don't you get them this, or whatever. And you don't realize the amount of costs it takes just that we're incurring just to try and get them into the classroom. Not necessarily that they're going to be inclusive and being involved and everything else, but I'm just doing all of it, spending all this money just to try and get him into the classroom. Imagine those who can't or couldn't afford that. Then, they're not even getting it. We sit here and we judge parents and we're like, well, they're keeping them at home. They don't take them to school. They don't do this and they don't do that.
No idea.
And I'm like, you don't understand. You don't know that it's not really easy to get our children into school at all, you know?
And I mean, but it's going back to what I said with kids and even in the workplace or in wider society. If you don't sensitize everyone else, then sometimes you're putting them in to be bullied.
Yes, and that's the thing. And we don't get that a lot. We think the inclusive thing will benefit just the person with disability. That's not true. It really benefits everyone. You have a child with a disability in a classroom. All of a sudden, these kids are learning to accept something that's different. And it's not just about learning to accept someone that's on the spectrum or somebody who is blind, but they start opening their minds to, wait, it's okay that this person is different, because that's it. And so when we're in society and we're having our fights and walking and crime and all of these things, a big part of it is because we're just thinking about ourselves. We're not looking out and thinking, wait, I'm struggling, this person might be struggling, let's talk about this. And an inclusive society, someone who's accepting and recognizing that there are other people who are suffering, or there are other people who have differences that get that, are much more willing to come to the table and say, let's talk, or let's do this, because they get this. And if we keep in our own bubble with the people at ourselves, we're not getting that.
Who's the ideal target that you want to tune into the disability conference?
Honestly, I want it across the board, because this is a policy that will be across the board. So I'm hoping some high schools are going to say, and even like sixth form UB will say, today your class is attend the conference, write a paper, do whatever, but watch the conference. I want businesses, if they've got a TV in their office, if you're in the bank or whatever, put it on. Yes, you might not be able to pay attention 100% to everything, but our average citizen needs to hear this. They need to start, once we get this education thing across, we do the sensitizing, it's going to be so much easier for everyone. Whether it's someone who's battling with cancer or a student, you know, and for so long we do it on our own. You know, NARCI is a part of our stakeholder thing, and they've been really trying to work with education, whatever, but they're one little unit. You can only do so much, right? Inspiration Centers desperately trying to help the kids. They're a part of it. They're only doing so much. But by coming together for us, we can put together this conference and start drafting a policy. If everyone out there starts watching and stuff, that will also make it easier, so that when we approach you and say, hey, would you think about hiring someone or working with someone, then you might say, okay, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn because I've listened and I know that there might be benefits to this, instead of just being closed off.
Nice. So the date?
November 30th, it's a Tuesday. It's going to be all day. I mean, there's going to be some points where they're breakout groups, and then they'll just be, you know, ads or whatever that are aired. But the speakers will start. We'll start with a keynote and then address each one. And like I said, it'll be streamed live on social media. So anyone and everyone, I really think this is something, this should be a country thing.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think that's also part of the problem with our policies. Sometimes we draft it and then we make legislation and people don't know. Right? They don't know. But let's get the whole community involved. So the business community might say, okay, I see what you're taking, I take your point, but. And we want to hear the buts, because then we can address it, you know. My mom taught me English in high school. And when she taught you to write a thesis, it was all about, first you have to think about what the antithesis is. What are your arguments that you expect to face? If you do that, then you can prepare a stronger argument. That's what we got to do. We got to listen to all sides so that we have a strong document and something that we can use for our people.
All right. That takes place on November 30th. Of course, this is just an early preview of what is to come. Christy, we thank you for coming in and telling us about it. People can put it down on their calendars so they don't miss the opportunity.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you'll have me back before, because we have a whole week of activities too. This is only one thing. So
the whole 16 days comes up in the end of the month, so we are anticipating more.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And we are going to be shifting gears, and earlier in the show we spoke about the fact that we have one of our very own reporters from Channel 5, Dwayne Moody, in Glasgow, Scotland for the COP26 presentation, and we're going to be getting an update from Dwayne right now into some of the events that he has been experiencing so far.
Good morning, Marlene and Gavin. Good morning from Glasgow, Scotland. As you know, I am here at the COP26, which is everything climate change. World leaders and technocrats in environment, in climate change, they're here. They've converged in Glasgow to discuss the impacts of climate change and also to hold leaders accountable in terms of having them no, no more talking, action. That is what they're asking for. Again, morning from Glasgow. Actually, it's afternoon here right now.
What are some of the things that you have, or based on what you've attended so far, what have you been seeing? What have you been hearing? What is the feeling just on the ground live in Glasgow?
Well, I arrived yesterday on Monday afternoon, closer into the evening. That was day one of the World Leaders Summit. The Prime Minister John Bricennia made his speech then, along with many of the other leaders. And essentially, the theme here for this COP26 is that there's need for action to take place. So, what we saw, or what we've seen, and you can see it on the screen right now, is that there are all these pavilions that have been set up here at event, the Scottish Event Centre here in Glasgow. And basically, what has happened is that you have all these organizations, from financial institutions to countries, as well as you have organizations such as 5Cs, the World Wildlife Fund, also CARICOM, and basically they're making presentations. These are side events that are happening, and they're making presentations to anyone that would listen about what the issues of climate change are and how it has been affecting their respective countries, and their response to the mitigation and adaptation measures when it comes to climate change. We know that, like I said, the world leaders are here. US President Joe Biden, we were able to get a snap of him as he exited a meeting this morning, as well as Prime Minister John Bricennia. And we did get an interview with him right there and then when he exited. We'll have that for you shortly. But outside of these bigger meetings, there are a lot of side events that are happening where technocrats and the experts in climate change are really discussing everything climate change, from the forest to marine, terrestrial land, as well as waters, oceans, and really to look at whether the country can, whether the world can achieve that 1.5 degrees, that increase in climate temperature, in the world temperatures of 1.5 degrees. The projections are that within the next 3 years, we will reach that 1.5, and by the 2030, it will be to 2.7 degrees. That's the concern right now, and so there's need for clear mitigation to take place, and mitigation from the larger countries. And so that is where countries like Belize and experts from Belize are really coming forward and saying, no, you know what, it's no longer time to really talk, but time to take action about this issue of climate change.
Dwayne, I know that you have some interviews that you've already been conducting, and we look forward to those. But for a moment, just lay out for us the scale. This is said to be one of the largest COPs, one of the largest conferences that we have seen, even in the midst of a pandemic, because it is such an urgent issue across the globe. Lay it out for us what it's like.
All right, let me break it down, guys. I believe I had I forwarded some images, but to enter into the facility, onto the campus, it takes almost 2 hours. Thousands of persons are trying to get in, and they have strict measures, security, as well as you have to do COVID tests, rapid tests daily. They're self-administered, and you register it online, and that has to happen every day before you can even come to the campus, because you won't be able to get access unless you've provided proof of a negative result. The compound itself is huge. Pavilions have been created all over, and they've separated all these leaders from the media, from the experts. Now, after we got in, and the word underground, and I can be honest with you guys, is that the word from several persons that have spoken to the word underground is that while this is the biggest that they've seen, there is room for better organization in terms of the free flow of people. But I'm guessing that it's because of the pandemic. This is why there are all these security measures that have been put in place. Right now, I am in the media center. There were at least 3,000 media reps that have been accredited, and that's because the space is limited even so. And so we're trying to do our best to get to these leaders, to find out, to get a pulse of where these countries are with climate change now.
And as you said, the world leaders made their presentations yesterday, countries like Belize, and Gavin and I were talking about Prime Minister Mia Mottley from Barbados, did their best to plead the case on what we are experiencing. What's been the reaction, even amongst the other journalists, hearing from small island states that are so severely affected?
Really, they're shocked. They're surprised. I think that one of the things that I've been speaking with several of them, and one of the things is that they have not experienced, at least those from the bigger countries, they have not experienced what we are experiencing. And the Prime Minister, in an interview that I did with him earlier today, went into details, and he did highlighted that in his speech on Monday, where he said that it's these smaller countries that have been adversely affected, and there needs to be some kind of work done to ensure that we survive climate change. I think that's one of the themes that we have here, and it's plastered all over, that the ambition is to survive this thing. And so that is where they are. No more, there's a call to action on that Paris Agreement that was signed 5-6 years ago.
Absolutely. And Dwayne, we're told that you caught up with Prime Minister Briceño shortly, well, I should say a few hours ago.
Yeah, we did. He was actually leaving a meeting that world leaders had attended, where they signed off on an agreement. The full details of that agreement have not been forthcoming, or they haven't provided us with that as yet. But due to logistics, of course, we were kept at bay, but we were still able to catch the Prime Minister as he exited along with CAPSTEC, Stuart Leslie. And we have that interview for you now. If you want, you can run that interview.
We know that
we're certainly working on that one.
We know that they are heard. Do you believe that they listen to your message?
Well, we hope so, and I think that more than ever, people are understanding how important it is. I mean, Mother Earth is dying, and unless we do some critical changes, Belize is doing its part. We have over 30% of our land under protection, and by 2026, we're going to have 30% of our oceans under protection. But we need financing, and this is where the developed countries have to come in.
Are they doing enough?
They're not doing enough, and that's the point.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it gets you angry, because here, for instance, small countries like Belize, we have been doing our part. We are protecting our reserves, our land, our waters, but yet the bigger countries who have developed themselves and living a lavish lifestyle are in effect telling us we can't do what they have done before because we have to protect Mother Earth. Well then, give us the funding to be able to do that. Give us the funding so that we can help our people to get out of poverty. Poverty is the greatest threat to the environment, and the developed countries need to understand that.
And what does the climate crisis mean for your country?
Yeah. Well, what is happening is that because of the changes in temperature, many of our islands are going to disappear. Some of them have already disappeared. We had a bird sanctuary that has completely disappeared. And the hurricanes are becoming more intense. And we could be doing decades of good work, and with one hurricane it can be destroyed.
So your message to China, to America, to the
They
EU,
need
to
to
the
do
UK?
more. They need to do more. They need to give us the funding, and they also have to be able to do their part in reducing their emissions so that we can reduce the temperature on planet Earth.
So in terms of
Well, of course, he's also included, and he was talking about it yesterday, but I hope that that talk can be translated into action.
Prime Minister, how do you respond to the criticism that these are merely discussions, merely meetings, and nothing really
action needs to be
happens?
taken?
Well, it is a merited criticism that, we've been talking and talking for decades. We've been talking that this is going to happen, and it is happening now. And I'm hoping now that these countries now have awoken and realizing that all of us are in this boat together. It's not just the small countries, but even the developed countries.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you so much.
There you have it. Wayne, so I'd love to hear what happened when Prime Minister walked away from that interview. I heard some international reporters throwing in some questions there.
Yeah, essentially we were able to grab him, and they took advantage of that to get a comment from him. The thing is that we've seen where Caribbean countries have come out strongly because they are part of these small island development states that have been adversely affected by climate change. And in Belize alone, because really the issue is you can see the effects of climate change in Belize as it is. Our coastline has changed over the years. Land is washing away. We've seen where farmers can't plant the way they used to because what was traditionally the rainy season is not really happening. We're experiencing more drought and all of that, and so we have experienced climate change. We're experiencing it, and the reality is that these bigger countries, these more industrialized countries like the US, like China, the fact is that they have not, and that's the sentiment that has been shared, they have not adhered or they have not made good on their commitments that were made back in 2015 for the Paris Agreement. And so now the call is being made to them. If nothing changes, we, the smaller islands, have been affected, and we will continue to be affected. And I believe that is why we've been getting these strong statements from leaders from the Caribbean. Mia Motley, we were able to get a shot of her as she left this meeting, but unfortunately she didn't stop to provide us with any kind of comment. But Prime Minister Briceño said what he said, and rightfully so. We are experiencing the effects of climate change, and something needs to be done.
All right.
I know that throughout today, there are other meetings that will be taking place. Marlene and Gavin, today, actually, our signing will take place between, let me give you the exact info on that. Our signing will take place between the signing of the Belize project finance for permanence. It's between an MOU that is being signed between WWF, TNC, and the government of Belize. The Prime Minister will be there, and we will try to get some more comments from him on that. Also today, the World Leadership Summit is closing, so they will have some closing speeches and some non-state actors that will be summarizing the key outcomes. So I will try to have that update from us for you guys later today and maybe even in the newscast.
Yes.
But there's a lot of inside events that are taking place. And that's not even to mention a huge protest that is expected to have upwards of 50,000 persons. That is set for this Saturday. There are some people who believe that it's just a top shop and nothing is going to change. And so these persons will be coming out in the center of Glasgow to really just demonstrate and protest.
All right. Well, Dwayne, we thank you for taking the time out to give us a bit of an update this morning, and we look forward to tonight's recap as well. Do stay safe, stay warm. And thank you once again.
Honestly, it's been cold, Marlene. It's freezing, but I'm working through it.
We the Caribbean people, I know where you are. Even if it's 50, it's cold.
All right, I can imagine. And I know that you've been spending most of your time at the conference, but have you gotten a chance to hear any of the famous Glasgow accent?
Listen, they're talking about we say Berg and not Burr, and it's a lot of different things. But I've found some friendly faces already. Some people from the Caribbean that I've networked with in the past, and then also there's this a conservationist guy, Chris Minty, who has worked at Las Cuevas. He lived and worked at Las Cuevas in the Chiquibul for 7 years, along with Rafael Montanero, and he reached out and has been a good help getting us around. And so outside of this, the official meetings that will be happening here, there's this website that has all these events that are happening outside of the COP26.
Well, it really does help.
We're working with it.
Sorry, I was going to say, it really does help that you have Belize plastered on your mask. So anybody who recognizes Belize will know where you're from. Dwayne, of course, we look forward to future updates. This is just day one. But thank you for letting us know what's been happening so far.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our final break. And when we come back, Gavin, will you please tell us what's trending?
We definitely will. So please stay tuned.
If you are ailing due to a chronic disease and are left permanently invalid before retirement age, you may want to check if you qualify to receive invalidity benefit. The invalidity benefit exists for persons who are unable to continue working due to permanent illness. To qualify, you must be under 60 years old, must be sick for 26 consecutive weeks and certified to be medically unable to perform any type of work, must have at least 5 years of paid SSB contributions and at least 5 paid within the 3 months leading up to your illness. If you do not qualify for the invalidity pension, you may be eligible for the invalidity grant. Want to know more about invalidity benefit? Visit our website or contact any of our offices to have someone assist you. Also, be sure to visit our Facebook page and give us a like to stay informed. Social Security Board. Safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Imagine going through your entire day without the burden and risk of carrying cash on you. Belize's shift to digital wallets has begun with eCash. We can now skip the cash when collecting money or paying for our essentials, all while using a fast, easy, and secure platform. Simply add funds to your wallet via bank transfer or at an agent, and you're good to go. You will be able to make quick, easy payments simply by scanning QR codes. And best of all, it all happens just like that. Payments are as easy as clicking a link online or scanning a QR code. Download the eCash app from the Google Play and Apple App Store today and take your first step into a cashless lifestyle. The future is here with eCash. For more information, visit www.e-cash.com or contact us via WhatsApp at 613-0257 to find out more.
It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call OnNet, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
And we're back, and it's Tuesday, so that means that we are wrapping up our show by talking about what is trending. And I have been looking at the social media over the past week just to see what all has been going on. There's been a lot of buzz generated. Now, of course, this past weekend was the Halloween weekend. Halloween, of course, was on Sunday, and so that means that there was a lot of parties going on internationally, not here because the restrictions that we're still under, but there were some fun celebrities Halloween costumes that I thought were fun to take a look at. We've got Doja Cat right here as the princess from the Disney movie Atlantis. There was a whole lot of funny costumes. Some are really good. We've got Rihanna dressed up as the rapper Gunna. This one was really funny, I thought. Was really fun, and Gunna himself reposted to Twitter in one of his famous outfits that a whole lot of memes were invented. There we've got Drew Barrymore in her Scream costume. If you remember that movie from way back, we've got Scream himself, and we've got Drew Barrymore reprising her famous role as a character in that. Then we have Sierra here. She's dressed up as all three members of TLC. I thought that was really cool. Sierra also dressed up as Selena for another party, and she posted that to her Twitter. That was also fun. There's Lizzo as Yoda. I thought that one was really funny. So I was jealous. Of course, I didn't dress up this year. I didn't go to any parties. So I was living through all of these celebrities, looking at these pictures, and I thought that a lot of them were really fun. If you dressed up for Halloween, maybe you can send us some pictures and we can feature them. But of course, that was one of the topics which I thought that we had to talk about just because it was such a big one. Now, of course, turning to some local news, we've mentioned it a few times in our show, there was Steve Buscemi. I did really like that meme. He dressed up as the whole meme of himself. But, of course, locally, we mentioned that we did have a pretty famous guest staying in Belize last week. Of course, that was Britney Spears, one of the biggest celebrities in the entire world. So a lot of people were excited, of course, when the news broke that she was here. She was staying at a private island off the south of Belize, but things quickly turned a little bit sour, and we see that she didn't leave too much of a good review. Now, she didn't say she didn't leave the country a bad review, but she did leave like the hotel or the place that she was staying. We saw that she was saying that there was no AC, that there was no room service, and of course, a lot of us were thinking, yeah, but you're on a private island. But, that was her experience here, so we won't knock it. We know that Britney's been through a tough time, so we hope that at least she did get to relax a little bit while she was here, and hopefully she does come back, even if to stay somewhere else. But of course, that was creating a whole lot of buzz, and we even got a celebrity reaction, a clapback video from Jay Prince, who owns some property here. He gave a live video talking about the best of Belize, so we hope that picked up some traction as well. And so we did get a lot of publicity and some good. So that was one of the biggest topics that was trending locally. I was talking a little bit earlier that we did see a little bit of a flare-up between the Tanga saga that was continuing. There was a little bit of drama over the weekend, but we are going to shift a little bit. Just because with Halloween, there's always, where there's in the beginning of November, that's generally considered the start of the holiday and the festive season. And that, of course, means that you're going to start to hear one of the most famous Christmas songs of all time, and that's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Now, because of that, there's a whole bunch of memes every year with Mariah Carey that she's defrosting, that she's waking somebody's hair, saying that why is I see her flying outside my house with reindeer. So there's a whole lot of memes that were generated November 1st, just talking about, well, it's Mariah Carey season and you're going to be hearing. No, I'm not going to lie, I love Mariah Carey's Christmas CD. I listened to the whole thing, including to All I Want for Christmas Is You, and of course we got all the memes about all the money that she's making from that song. And officially that song did actually re-enter the Billboard charts as of last week, as it does every single year. And so if you're a fan of Christmas music like I am, then you're pretty excited for the season. But if not, then it may be time to invest in some AirPods so you could listen to your own music yourself. Mariah herself got in on a bit of the fun. She retweeted some of the memes, she made some herself. She also did one, she made a video last year and she did this year again. So she's very well aware of the fact that she is known as the Christmas Queen. I think she likes that a lot too. So I'm enjoying the memes, I'm enjoying the music, but that is some of what was trending. Now, of course, as we said earlier in our show, November also means something very important for us in Belize, and that is, of course, the Garifuna Settlement Day, which is going to take place on the 19th. So, of course, if you're like me, though, you are just festive in general and you want to celebrate everything. So I think that we can do both. So I'm definitely going to be listening to my Christmas music as well as all of my paranda, punta, all of that that's going on. And it must be said, since it's part of the season, can't ignore food. So whether it's Christmas food or food for Settlement Day, I am a fan of all of it. And I think that we should just celebrate everything. Right?
You can beat Christmas music on the Garifuna drums.
There we go.
That's one option too, right?
Yeah, there we go. I think that should be maybe the new tradition.
No, I've always said I usually say I have a firm rule. I don't talk about Christmas until after November 19th, but I'm kind of feeling like how you're feeling. It's like any holiday will do.
Yep.
So I'll gear up for both at the same time. But speaking of, taking a break, whether it's for the holiday or whatnot, we gotta wrap up the show.
Yep, that's all the time we do have for today. But if you want to contact us, you can send us an email at oie@channel5belize.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ.
And Instagram at OIE Belize.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then,
keep your mind, your eyes,
and your heart open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.